Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode of SAP UI5 training. In the last class of SAP UI5, we saw how to create a Fiori application out of the box from using SAP Web IDE templates. We have consumed the OData service from the NetWeaver system and created our end-to-end Fiori app and started editing all the different artifacts of the Fiori application. By far in the class, we had talked about the basics of HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. We looked at SAP UI5 framework, control hierarchy, and the control structures. We talked about properties, elements, attributes, and aggregation of a UI control in UI5, how exactly the UI5 controls are created, which are all the different libraries to make use of these controls. And then we discussed about consuming these controls in a UI5 based application by making use of XML views. We also talked about different variety of models, starting with JSON, XML resource model, as well as in the last session we saw how to consume OData service. With respect to OData service, we saw how to enable paging mechanism and searching mechanism for the OData service. Then we looked at Fiori user experience, how to create end-to-end Fiori application without doing a copy-paste of code into SAP Web IDE, making use of different concepts like binding, aggregation binding, element binding, property binding, and expression binding, binding modes and binding types, and different variety of controls like list, table, icon tab filter, search, uh, buttons, toolbars, paging, master detail type of application, worklist type of application, and different variety of things without copy pasting the code. So more important is never learn from trainers who are teaching you copy paste, especially the trainers from Hyderabad who just give you training by doing a copy paste of ready-made sample examples. Don't learn from them. They are cheating you. Don't go with such trainers. The trainer who is teaching you live examples, writing every single line of code is the right trainer for you. Then we also discussed different concepts like fragments, formatters, Google Map integration, and custom control by far in the class. And we have written every single line of code to understand how the interaction between these different artifact works. The most important ingredient of doing all that was scaffolding template used for creating our application. And all the majority of interview questions was also covered by far in the session. So now we are in a state to go ahead and create our own OData service into the system. So let's get started with the new architecture of SAP system for supporting the Fiori applications. So what typically has happened in recent years, we all know that there is a three-tier architecture where we have presentation, application, and database layer. This has evolved over a period of time. So what is happening today in industry? Slowly, this overall three-tier architecture is also evolving. So we have by far the presentation layer, application layer, and then we have our database layer. So we could have used any database by far with SAP, and with the evolution of SAP HANA, it was possible from NetWeaver 7.4 onwards to directly connect SAP HANA database as a primary database with the application layer. This has made tremendous changes in terms of performance as well as the way we look at transactional applications, because HANA is a hybrid database which supports both transactionals as well as analytical operations in a single database. So earlier we used to use different system like BW systems for transactional analytical processing, and other database and our transactional system for OLTP processing. But with HANA database, both of these layers now combine into a single package called HANA Appliance. Over a period of time, this application layer is also evolving. We have new ABAP syntax now in ABAP from 7.4 onwards, which includes inline data declaration, inline expressions, line expressions, string expressions, table expressions, and also new tooling which allows you to check whether your custom code will work with existing HANA DB or not. And then, of course, in the presentation side, you will see now Fiori and UI5 is becoming the new presentation layer for taking input and giving output to the user. So all these three layers is covered in more detail in my ABAP on HANA course, where we discuss how to best leverage the SAP HANA DB on top of an application layer. So if you want more detail about that, please look at my YouTube channel for my ABAP on HANA video. So I'll just quickly show you my YouTube channel for ABAP on HANA training. So you can just go to ABAP on HANA training, and there you can see a playlist, free playlist is available for you to get some good hands-on about ABAP on HANA. So you can go there, go to playlist, and here you can see an ABAP on HANA playlist where you can get some very good idea about what exactly ABAP on HANA is all about. Of course, if you need more detail, please subscribe to my ABAP on HANA course. So now, in order to support SAP Fiori development, we want a completely different way, the way we look at the servers. So by far, companies are developing their business logic in this application layer. And in order to enable the SAP Fiori, we cannot simply go and disrupt this. So SAP have come up with another approach called gateway server. In the gateway server, it is possible to install SAP gateway server which contains all the Fiori application as well as the OData service in a completely different system connected to this application system. So there are two types of deployment scenarios which we look at whenever we look at supporting SAP Fiori. In any of your organization, you would see the one of these type of deployment scenarios. So first is called embedded scenario. So first is called embedded scenario. And second is called central hub scenario. Okay, second is called central hub scenario. So in embedded scenario, what happens is the support to enable SAP Fiori applications as well as the OData service is done in the single box, in a single application server. So your application server, what you have, you need to additionally install something called IWBEP, or it's called GW_FND. This is the component you need to install. It's called Gateway Foundation, which supports SAP OData service. And then also you have to install the SAP UI component to support SAP UI5, because we all know that we need to deploy or we need to make reference from SAP UI5 Bootstrap, and for that reference we would need the SAP UI5 framework to be deployed somewhere wherever we can reference it from. So that's what exactly will happen in application layer. If you see GWFND as well as UI5 components are installed in your server, you can make use of this server for your SAP Fiori development. Okay, so that's what exactly you can use. So then another scenario is where you exactly don't do any changes, in which you will not touch the existing application layer. Instead of it, you will install another server on top of it. What is the advantage of doing it? The advantage of doing that is you can then connect to multiple servers also. Okay, that's called central hub scenario. So in the central hub scenario, what happens is you will have your current application server. On top of this application server, you also install a completely different server called gateway. So this is your GWFND component, which is supporting SAP Fiori and OData services, and your current application still remains as it is. The advantage of using such a scenario, let's say for example you have different servers like CRM, your core ERP, and blah blah, different systems. It is possible to connect your gateway system to these different systems based on something called a system alias. So at any point of time, you can have multiple services running here in this gateway system. One service is talking to your CRM system, another is talking to your ERP system. So you can have multiple services, and these services can talk to different backend systems. And here is where you expose your final OData service, as well as your Fiori applications are also deployed in gateway system. That's called central hub scenario, in which you install a completely different three-tier layer on top of existing three-tier layer, which is called gateway. Now, how can you check if these components are installed in your server or not? So for that, what you need to do is go back to the system, and let me just show you a demo system over here. I will just connect to this demo system, and I will quickly go to the front end system, which is, in this case of demo, I have used a scenario where it is a central hub scenario where front end and back end, which is Fiori front end system, which is nothing but your gateway system, and the back end system, which is nothing but your functionality, core functionality, what you've been using so far is different systems actually. So the gateway is also known as Fiori front end system. Okay, and this is known as Fiori backend. So you will develop the OData projects over here, but you expose the OData service from gateway. Remember, once again, you develop the OData service projects over here, but you expose it from here, the OData services, and all the Fiori applications what you also develop should be installed in, should be uploaded into the gateway system, should be deployed in the gateway system. Okay, so if you look at in a broader way, what exactly your SAP gateway server or SAP Fiori front-end server will include, it will, and what exactly your backend server will include. So in your backend server, your core functionality will exist, which is nothing but APIs, your database tables, your application logic, your classes, your function modules, everything which you have it today as part of functionality will exist as part of your Fiori backend server. Now, when it comes to the Fiori uh, backend server, it also now allows something called Gateway Service Builder, which is called SEGW. Using this, you will be creating OData projects. Okay, you will be creating OData projects, and finally what you will do is this OData project is what you register. The moment you register this OData project, metadata definition gets replicated automatically to the front-end system. So there is a double duplicacy of metadata. That's okay, fine, but we get a flexibility to connect front-end system to different back-end systems at runtime. So that's completely possible. So what we can have here then is something called registration of services done over here in the front end side. So you will be then registering the OData services on the front end, SAP Fiori front end server. So you will register the OData service, all the OData services over here, okay, in your front end system. So sometimes people come and say, Anubhav, I am unable to find my OData code. Where can I see that? You are connected to your front end system. Go to your SAP Fiori backend system. We'll also look at how to find that out, and then go and check out the project over there in the backend. You will find it. Okay, so after registering the OData services, it's ready to consume. So I will show you the overall steps in the system today, how to create a simple OData service and expose it from the front-end system, and then also consume it in a Fiori application. We also look at here what additionally you will have it inside. So in order to run any Fiori applications, so all the Fiori apps will be deployed in your front-end system, but to run these Fiori applications, you need SAP UI5 framework reference, right? So SAP UI5 framework will also be deployed over here, which makes a reference to this Fiori application. So that's why also sometimes you create an app in SAP Web IDE, and when you deploy in gateway, it won't work because SAP UI5 version in the gateway, let's say, is 1.28. The one which you created in SAP Web IDE is 1 point, let's say 44. Okay, these two are now incompatible. How will it work? So you need to be sure that the version of the gateway has to be according to what you are creating. Okay, I will show you how to compare that in today's class. So let's wait for that time to come. We will look into it. Then another interesting point is it will also include the single access point for all the Fiori application called SAP Fiori Launchpad. Okay, it includes SAP Fiori Launchpad, and then also it includes something called SAP Fiori Theme Designer for custom branding. So you can integrate your Fiori applications now on SAP Fiori Launchpad. You can also apply the custom branding based on your requirement. It also includes something called Fiori Launchpad Designer, LPD Designer, which allows you to create the Launchpad. So actually Launchpad itself is the consumption point for business users to connect to the Fiori applications, but Launchpad Designer is for administrators to configure this. So this is the job of a Fiori consultant in a company. Now, if you look at this architecture, you would find that the same architecture is also used in S4 HANA on-premise system. If you have an S4 HANA on-premise system, you have a separate front end and separate back end system. And addition to that, you have S4 core components, which allows you to do all the capabilities which S4 offers. And it's basically an ABAP on HANA system. It runs on SAP HANA DB as the primary database. So that's one major difference you'll find between a normal gateway-based approach and S4 HANA-based systems. If you have Suite on HANA, of course, then again you have a ABAP system running on HANA database. But S4 gives you more capabilities. It gives you industry best practices, which would help you to reduce the implementation time, and implementation can be done in a new methodology, which is called SAP Activate. With the help of that, you can achieve implementation much faster in S4. It also allows you to integrate with other cloud solutions provided by SAP. At the same time, the overall purpose of S4 is to reduce the TCO, and you can achieve the digital core for digital economy. You would have a possibility to interact with machine learning libraries, with external machine learning libraries. You would be able to talk to big data integration with Hadoop and other big data systems. So this is all what S4 is all about. It's a complete package with lots of new functionality and industry best practice solution and processes. But let's come back focus here on our normal technical part for implementing the Fiori system, so or Fiori application. So this is what exactly we will be having as part of our front end system installed. So if somebody asks you, where will you deploy your Fiori app, anybody, what will be your answer? Once your Fiori app is created in Web IDE, how would you give access to the user? Where will you deploy your Fiori app? It should be in the gateway system or Fiori front-end system. That should be your answer. Where will you create your OData service? It should be in your Fiori backend system. Where will you register the OData service is your front-end system. Hope this is clear to all of you. Then in addition to that, it also includes something called roles. Role plays an important part in our life. So if you see that Fiori, all the Fiori apps are role based. Yeah, we always call Fiori apps are role based. So all those front end roles will also be created in your Fiori front end system, which you will assign to the user, and that point of time the application will be visible in the Fiori Launchpad to the user. For more details about creating Launchpad, using Launchpad Designer, creating the administrator and user roles, theme designer, and creating catalogs, groups, please look at my next course, Fiori Launchpad Training. In that, we had also discussed some advanced concepts of Fiori like sandbox, local launchpad, mock server, unit testing, and extensibility concept, how to extend standard Fiori apps delivered by SAP. So please look at that course. Let me just quickly show you. You can go to onlinefiorytrainings.com, and there you'll find the information about the next level of Fiori. So in this course, we talked about methodology or techniques or technicality behind creating a Fiori app from scratch. In the next course here, you see Fiori enhancement and launchpad. You will understand how to extend any standard Fiori application delivered by SAP. We will also have a deep dive inside of an SAP system, how to set up such a gateway system. So it's more like a basis Fury consultants work. But since there was a huge demand by students from different areas, they were asking Anubhav, can you also cover this? So that's what I separated in a completely different course here, Fury Launchpad and Web IDE. So this course is bare minimum to proceed with Launchpad and Web IDE course. And then, of course, if you want to go to S4 HANA programming or more into ABAP on HANA, then this course would be relevant for you. In this, I'm teaching concepts like creating analytical apps on top of S4 HANA CDS views, which are created using virtual data modeling in CDS. So we will also look at CDS security. Majority of the trainers which you find online, they will only teach CDS view up to associations. They will not go beyond that because it's beyond their reach. They will not talk about CDS security, creating DCL for CDS, data control language for CDS, creating new features like table function in CDS, which is available from NetWeaver 7.5, VDM modeling for creating S4 HANA related interface consumption and composite views, and then finally consuming or creating a CDS view with UI annotations to be able to consume it in the Fiori apps. Also, there is a new concept called transactional applications using CDS, which is done with the help of BOPF CDS integration. That is also part of my ABAP on HANA course. So it's a very useful thing if you want to work on S4 systems and create special type of analytical apps using Web IDE. Definitely, this course makes more sense for you. It's going to give you a new edge to your career. So let's move on back. And I will take up the questions in a minute, guys. So keep posting them in the chat window. I will take them up. So now let's have a look at here in our system. So I will first log into SAP Fiori front-end system over here. And let me just connect to it and show you the installed components in this server. So I go to system status and you will find here the product version. So I click on display details and now you can see SAP UI component 740, means it's NetWeaver 740 system, SP11 is being attached to it. Then comes is SAP Gateway Foundation. So you see SAP GWFND component, which represents that it is having Gateway Foundation layer inside. So these two components, if you can find in your system, definitely you can make use of this system as a front-end system. Okay, you can make this as a front-end system. Now coming to how to check the UI5 version which is installed. So how can we check that? Go to transaction SICF and then search for service path UI5 underscore UI5 and execute it. Okay, I'm sorry. I think it's just service name is UI5 underscore UI5. Let me just type that. Execute. Yes, there you go. And now you see SAP public BC UI5. Right click on it and click on test service. Click on this and let's see what happens. It is now launching a browser session indicating the version of SAP UI5 deployed in this server. So deployment of this as new SAP UI5 version is also explained in my next course. So if you are a basis consultant and want to understand how to set up and install Fiori and stuff, you can make use of my training and you see the maximum version which is deployed right now in this service 1.26. So how to upgrade, that's something you can do it easily. So you need to, of course, understand the process of upgrading this. That's also covered in my next course. Okay, so this is how at least as a developer you can check. So if I by mistake upload a Fiori app which is much higher version, let's say 1.44 or 1.48, the structure of the project may not match what was supported in 1.26. As a result, that app will not work your somewhere you will find a problem. It could be the app problem, it could be the problem with the launchpad also. When you're integrating with Fiori launchpad, you would say an error could not open app. That is something related to component.js. You will get errors because the structure of Fiori application, what we learned in our course by far, it's little different with as compared to what was there in 1.26. So this is the new structure. If you look at, we had used latest, I think one of the more latest versions, 1.48 is what we used to create our Fiori app over here, which we created yesterday. So that's something more latest, and that may not be compatible with this server. Okay, so what will you do when you're creating the Fiori app from template? Here you will get an option for version. You can see it here, and the maximum what is supported by this web IDE, minimum which is supported by web IDE is 1.28. So maximum what you can do is try with 28 and ask your basis to upgrade system to 1.28 or at least 36, 1.36, which would allow you to support many things. There are new controls which are coming in every new evolution of UI5 version, so you will also be benefited with that. Otherwise, 1.26 is something which is very low version. So ask your basis team to upgrade that. Yeah, that's very important. So this is why I wanted to show this. So now hope you know how to check that out. So we can now get started with creating of our first OData service. So as we all discussed in the past classes, what is an OData service, what is a service document, what is a metadata document. This is all I have covered by far in the class. So let me right away get started with creating our first OData service in the backend system. So I will now connect to our Fiori backend system. So let me just do that. Now, before we develop something, we need data, right? We need true data from somewhere to be read. Where will we read the data from? So to expose an OData service, we need data to be exposed. So either you can make use of your existing database tables like Mara, VBAC, VBAP, and write a select query or make use of function modules to expose it, or you can go with another option for practicing, for training purpose. There is something called enterprise procurement model, EPM model, which is provided by SAP. I'm soon going to host a session on YouTube for EPM data model. It will be a live stream session. I will send you an invite to all of you who are part of my batch for understanding the whole EPM model in detail. But right now, just understand that this EPM model includes all the real life or real time scenario like tables. Okay, and then on top of these tables they have written some functionality and function modules. So all the function modules in EPM starts with BAPI underscore EPM. This is the naming convention for any function module which starts in EPM, and there are different entities like product, supplier, or as you know, supplier, as well as the customers are known as business partner, BP. We have sales orders. So these are all the different entities we have it inside the EPM model. So for each entity, we have CRUD methods: create, read, update, and delete. Yeah. So we have CRUD function modules available to read the data, to update the data, delete the data, as well as create the data. So that's what exactly we will now see. What is the naming convention to understand these function modules? So all the function modules starts with BAPI EPM, and then if it's a product, so you just put the product. Get list. So get list will allow you to read all the product data, guys. Okay. Second comes is BAPI underscore EPM underscore product. Get detail. Get detail will allow you to read single product data. And as you know, if I want to read a single record, a unique record from a database table, I need to make use of my primary key. So that's why this read single product BAPI function module request an input called product ID as an input parameter. So it will have an input called product ID, which is the primary key for the product table. And as a result, it will always return you one single record. Then next comes is BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore create, to create a new product. So create new product. and then BAPI underscore EPM underscore product update. And of course, similarly, you have BAPI EPM product delete. This is the naming convention what it will follow throughout for any entity also. So suppose, can anybody tell me which function module I use to update the business partner data? Can anybody tell me? According to this naming convention, what do you think, what will be the function module name to update the business partner data? I need the whole function module name according to the naming convention, what I have showed it here. To get multiple records, it is get list, single record, get detail, creating record underscore create, updating underscore update, underscore delete for deleting the record. So now if you look at the business partner, yes, perfect. You see, you have got the right answer. It's BAPI underscore EPM. That's a starting point. BP is my entity underscore update to update the data. Similarly, if I want all the business partner data, BAPI underscore EPM underscore BP underscore get list, I can make it. Similarly, I want to read the single data of a business partner. Of course, it would expect me to pass the business partner ID, which is the primary key, and I can say get detail. Similarly, BAPI underscore EPM underscore BP underscore create, update, and delete, of course. BAPI EPM BP delete. That's what exactly we use. Similarly for order, now let me show you this in the system. So I go back to our backend system. So remember, this is my backend system. You can also see it here. EP7 is my backend and my front-end system is AHG. Okay, EP7 is my backend system. So I go to my backend system, and what I'll do is SE11. And now what I'll do here in SE11, I will show you a table, SNWD underscore PD table. This is products table. And then later on, I'm going to call the BAPI to read the data from this product table. So I execute and just show you some records in this table so you can later on compare them. So you see there are records here in this table. Maybe if I just sort them up. So you see the records are like HT1000, HT1001, 1002, 3, 4, and so on. These are all the sample records in this system. Remember, you need to understand a little bit of EPM model, and I'm going to host soon a session on YouTube of understanding whole EPM model. What are all the different tables? What is this sample company, model company called ITEIO? How exactly these entities are connected with each other? What exactly will be, how can you generate some sample data inside this EPM model, and also some reference services which EPM model provides us. So this is the base for doing any training. Even you are in my ABAP on HANA training, I will be covering this. So I think EPM model was released from NetWeaver 7.2 onwards. It will be there in all systems. These tables you can check out in your systems as well. If you are above 7.2 and above, then you will see EPM data model, EPM tables in your SAP system. Okay. So now let's go on and let's just go to BAPI SE37, where we look at all function modules. So BAPI underscore EPM underscore star. If I do F4, now you're going to get the list of all the function modules related to the EPM data model. So you see BP change, BP create, BP delete, get detail, and get list. I think I did a mistake. It is not update, it's change. So we have to just change the change, and then let's apply it here. Yes, done. And that's my function module for changing the data. Create, change, delete. Similarly, you see product, get list, get detail, delete, create, and change. So I'll go with the get list one first and now execute it and show you what exactly it returns me. So that makes my life easier. And typically in any application development where your company asks you to convert something to a Fiori app, you would already have such an API, such a class or a function module already present which giving you this data. Or if not, then maybe you can create a wrapper, create a function module for the purpose of consuming or exposing it via OData. So there you go, it returns me 118 products, And now you see the product IDs, what I was showing you earlier is also visible, HD 1000, 1001, 2 and 3, and there are some more, of course, products which it is returning me in one shot. So one question to all of you, imagine there are 1 billion products in this table, and when you call the BAPI, it gives you 1 billion products. Will you send these 1 billion products to front end? And if you do so, will your Fiori app will ever load? Imagine your app is running on mobile, you are calling the BAPI, which gives you 1 billion records, and those 1 billion records you are now trying to send it to Fiori app running in mobile over the network. Will it ever load? What will you do to avoid uh, avoid such a situation where there is a humongous data in the backend and you don't want to load all of that in one shot? What will you do in the backend? Anybody? What will you do? Absolutely, we use paging concept, which we learned yesterday's class, and we don't pass all the rows. We use up to rows. We return only the rows which are really required chunk by chunk. Like first I load 10 rows, then once users scroll down in the Fiori app, we load next 10 rows. That's what we learned in yesterday's class, and we will also be implementing it here in this. Okay, so let's go ahead. So that's our first function module. Now I'm going to write an OData making use of these function modules. So there are two ways you can create OData services. One is manually doing everything, and second way is service generation technique. Service generation technique is most simplest and easiest technique, but since I assume you are all ABAPers and technical consultants, you will be not using the easy path. We will taking the tough path first, and then we will also look at the easy path later point of time. So first take the tough path where we write all the code required for creating service on our own. Now SAP already provides you an infrastructure to create the service project, right? So SAP generate lot of different things for you when you create a service project. So there is nothing called magic. Where will SAP put their code when they generate a service project for you? Where will SAP put the code where they generate the service? So to put the generated code, so what happens is we can use SAP Service Builder to generate the code, okay, or to generate the service code as well as service metadata code. So yesterday we saw that you access a metadata document of the service, and it was giving you a lot of properties, a lot of attributes, and their artifact details, right? How it is happening? There is a code running in the backend which is making it possible. And who generate that code? SAP generates. When you create a service project, SAP generates a lot of code behind the scenes, which makes it possible to give you the metadata, which makes it possible to give you the response from the service, request response, right? So it should give you the response. So there is some code which is running behind the scenes which you may not see, okay, but that code is doing its job, returning you the metadata of the service, returning you the information about the service, returning you to the entity set information about the service, and that code is generated by SAP automatically. On top of this, we write our own code to support functionality, right? For example, somebody wants to know product data, somebody wants to know business partner data, so we write that functionality on top of it. So one part is the predefined generated code for metadata and stuff. Another part is the core functionality. So SAP made it very easy for us. The code which is bare minimum for every service, SAP generates it for us. The code which is required to expose the data, we have to write it. And for that, we have two techniques: service generation technique and manually writing all the code. So we'll go with first technique, writing the code manually. But for writing the code, you need a place where you can write, right? You need a program or a class where you can write the code. And also SAP needs a place where SAP can write the code, which gives you the basic information about service, like service document and metadata, right? So for that, SAP also generate classes. So there is The first class which SAP generates called MPC class. MPC stands for Model Provider Class. In this, SAP put all the metadata information about your service. All the data declarations related to your entity sets will be done in this. So metadata information, I will show you in the system, don't worry. So right now just understand the theory, because this is important from interview point of view, because you will be facing soon interviews on Fiori, and that point of time you need to be clear about what is MPC, what is DPC, what is extension classes, right? You should be able to answer. So metadata information, data type declaration for entities, all that code will be part of MPC class. Then comes is the next class called DPC class, which is also generated by SAP. It's called data provider class. So by any chance, if you're using service generation technique, this class will contain all the code to read, update data. So this includes crude method implementations. In case we are using service generation technique. Okay. So this is what exactly your two classes which are available created by SAP. And in this, SAP write or generate some code. Now, let me take an example. Let's say you created your service, these classes got generated. Now, you want to write implementation for, let's say, reading the product data. In which class will you write the code to read the product data? Anyone? Which class will you write to read or your select query? In DPC, because that's what is your crude implementation. Read, update, delete, create, right? That's where you write. Now, you have been asked now to do some changes in the service. Okay, that's what we do in development. We do something, and then there is a new request from client, you update something once again, going back into it, right? So now you go and change something in service, and then you again say regenerate. When you regenerate, what will happen? Anyone? When you click on regenerate the service, what will happen? What do you think? What will happen? SAP would regenerate both the classes once again. So whatever you have written in this DPC class or by any chance MPC class will be lost. Okay, it overwrites absolutely. So whatever you did gets overwritten by regeneration process in case there is a change in the service metadata by you. In case there is a change which you need to adopt some new functionality, the data generation or regeneration of service would disrupt your changes which you've done in MPC and DPC class. So that's why we have a concept of extension classes. For MPC, there is an MPC extension class. EXT, we call it as extension. EXT stands for extension class. So extension means inheritance. So it inherits from MPC class, and this gets created also automatically when you're creating the service project or regenerating or generating the service project, and all the SAP generated code remains in these classes, above classes. And the below classes inherits these SAP generated classes called extension classes, where you write your code. Okay, where you write your code. So this way your code is separated from SAP's generated code. Next time you change something in the service and regenerate the service, SAP would not touch your implementation. They will just regenerate MPC and DPC class. They won't touch your implementation at all. So that way you safeguard yourself with your implementation. All the SAP's implementation which SAP is doing to basically support the service, it is doing in its own classes. So that's why when you create a service project, you click on generate button or regenerate button, it would initially create 4 classes for you. Additionally, it also create class like model provider class, which is just for sending HTTP response. So you need HTTP request response class also. That's called model provider, provider class, which SAP also generate. That we don't have to worry. That class includes all the HTTP request handling, but nothing related to functionality. So majorly for a developer, these 4 classes makes more sense. We we will be working mainly with MPC extension and DPC extension class for our custom coding, and which gets of course inherited from the parent class. So you can also use the parent class functionality which comes out of the box using inheritance to you. Okay, so let's go to the system, create our first service project, and our intention is to, okay, let's look at practical requirement here, what we want to do. So suppose you're working in a multinational company in SAP department, and you've been asked to create an OData service for Fiori application which expose all the product data. So that's your first assignment, first requirement which has come up. Okay. Now the database, the function modules can be used as EPM. So all the EPM function modules you can make use to enable this. Okay, what do we do? Let's go to the backend system. That's where we will be creating our service. So let me cross check. It's EP7 perfect. I go to SEGW transaction. This is called Service Gateway Builder. Okay, SEGW transaction, guys. Service Gateway Builder. That's my first transaction. Service Gateway Builder. That's where I go, and now I start creating my first service from scratch. Okay, now I click on create, and let's click on project, and let's give a project name. Remember, you are doing a custom development. Of course, all your development should start with Y and Z. Okay, so let's say Y demo, or I can just say Y OData demo, and I'll say Feb, or I say 2018. Okay, Y demo, Y OData demo 2018. So sample OData service, and I'm saving right now into a local object. If you're working in your company, you would of course give a productive package over here, your Z package, lock it into the package. It would prompt you for transport request, and also of course add it to the transport request. Once you transport, it will transport all the OData service to the quality and as well as the production system accordingly. Fine. So right now I'm using local object. Local object. So the package will be provided by your architect to you. Accordingly, you will proceed. So you see our project got created. Now let's look at the data model. So you see entity type, association, entity set. All three things you already know by now. So what is an entity type? It's a blueprint of your entity. For example, product is an entity type which describes properties related to product. Example, product ID, product type, product name, description, price of the product, unit of measurement, all that is product data, product blueprint. Association, if you have relationship between two entities, for example, product and supplier, that association is, or that foreign key relationship between two entities is indicated by association. We saw the power of association in our last class when we created the Fiori app on top of an OData. And then finally comes is your entity sets, which allows a single point of access to the entity to perform the CRUD operations on OData service. Correct? That's all we have also written as part of our definition of these things in the PPT. And the PPT I will be uploading in our training blog. You can download this PPT from there. This will be the single source of truth for you for interviews. Okay. Now let's create our entity type. So I right click over here and say create, and now I can say product as my entity type, and I click on OK, and then I will just expand the product and add the properties for this product entity. Okay, now what shall I write here? So ultimately I will be calling later point of time function module, and I will be transferring the data from function module to this entity. Correct? So why not, let's keep the property name same as what function module is returning me. So I will go to SE37 and look at my function module for product and see what my function module returns me. That will be the type, or those will be the properties I would also create it over here. So I can go to header data of this function module, and you see these are all the properties function module typically returning me. So I can now do control Y guys, Control Y, and I can copy now some of the properties. Let me just copy some of them. Control C, come back and just add those properties over there. So let's add the properties here. Yeah. Now for each property you have to give the type. Remember guys, OData works on OData types. This is, you are now at OData level. So OData, its data type is different than the above data types. Above data types we use int1, string, char, 255, something of that sort. Now here you are talking in OData entity. You're creating an OData entity. It has nothing to do with your above structure at all. You can decide the property name whatever you like. You, let's say I want to I don't want to put currency underscore code. I want it currency code. So I can decide this name. It's up to me. Also, the data type should be according to the OData data types. Press F4 and you will see the list of all the data types available for OData. So as you can see, for numbers, big numbers, decimal numbers, double, float, big integers, single value, boolean value, time, date time, as well as the binary, which is used for image processing, we'll look at in upcoming days. So all that are available over here. Typically we use edm.string for defining our property of character types. Okay, so let me put edm.string for almost everything except the price. So price, I will put it little differently. So measurement, and I just put everything as a string. And for price, I will put it as double. Okay, I put it as double, or I can also put it as decimal. Okay, and then come here to unit property. For this price, I can press F4 and I can now choose existing properties. So I can say currency code will be the unit for this price. That's what my entity modeling. I'm modeling my entity. And also I need to define what will be the primary key of every record from OData. So that later point of time, I can query single record based on the primary key. So typically it is always decided according to what your table has. So table has product ID as a primary key. So I'll define this also as my primary key of the OData entity type. Now you can also give precision, scale, and maximum allowed value for any of the property. So for precision, scale is basically for decimal numbers. Maximum you can give it for anything. Let's say you want to say my category should not be more than 2 characters. So I can just put here max 2. Okay. Then moving on to this, updatable, creatable, sortable, nullable, and filterable. That's something, a metadata property relevant checkboxes, which enables or which tells the consumer of this OData service, tomorrow you as a Fiori developer only will be consuming this service. So if you want to know whether I can use this particular entity to create a new product, can I use this for create a new product? Yeah. How do you know? You will check the metadata of the service. So to enable or to tell the consumer who is going to consume this service whether he or she can create a new product based on creatable. Okay, he or she can use this particular property while creation of audit, creation of a new record for this. Then mark it creatable. So I will right now mark everything creatable, updatable, sortable, and filterable. So user will now see that I can go ahead and create a new product based on all these properties. I can never update product ID because primary key is once given, right? Of course, you never update a primary key. You can update all the other columns. How do you tell the user? You will mark here. You'll say you can update everything. You can't update product ID. So I made it unchecked. You can sort based on, let's say, I don't want to allow user sorting. I'll tell the user, okay, you can only sort the product based on product ID and category. So just mark these two. And then accordingly, I will implement my coding later point of time, what I am indicating here. So what am I indicating to the consumer? That you can sort the data based on product ID and category, but not other properties. So later on, the consumer should not come and say, hey, I applied a sorting on products based on supplier and it's not working. I'll say, I didn't even supported it, you see. I unchecked it. It's not even supported. If you want me to support it, give me development effort. I will support it. At that point of time, I will check this, write the code, and then it will be supported. You remember yesterday's class when we were consuming service, some sorting was not supported. So that sorting was something which was not supported, and you can also check that information in the metadata document of the service, and that's how they mark it. That's how we mark the metadata over here. Then nullable, can you leave this field while creating a new product as null? So I'll say I can only keep the weight unit as null. Rest all the properties are something which are not nullable. You should not keep them null. Okay, just keep these two things nullable. They are nullable. Rest all you have to supply me. Filterable, can I filter the product data based on all? Let me say you can just do it based on category and product ID. You can filter, otherwise you cannot. That's how I tell the caller that this OData service supports what at what level. Okay. Then you can additionally give labels, which is more semantic information about the properties. And then of course, component type and field. I will show you another way of creating this entity using direct database structures. Okay. Direct DDK structures say you can create these properties. At that point of time, the component field will become relevant. It will put the structure name hyphen field name will be coming here to relate these properties to the data dictionary structure. And then comes the semantic. Once again, semantic is all about providing the semantic information, what exactly this property is all about. Is it an email address or a number or a country? What exactly it is. So that's more like semantic information of what is the purpose of this field. Okay, so right now let's leave it, save it, we are done. Okay, so now our first entity is created. But can you apply CRUD operation on an entity type? Anybody? What do you use to apply CRUD operation on our data? What is that is required? Entity set is required. Perfect answer, Priya. Entity set is required. So what we will do is we will go back and create an entity set. So come here to entity set, right click and say create. And how an entity set is created? It's created by the blueprint, and the blueprint is this entity type. So let's create an entity set. Naming convention is product, your entity's type name under entity type name set. Okay, suffix it with set. That's it. That indicates an entity set. That's a naming convention. You can also do an F4 here now, and you see only one entity type which we have is this. Click on OK. Very nice. And now you see entity type is created, and here you can say this entity type is creatable, updatable, deletable, and it also pageable, which means when I scroll it will load the data chunk by chunk, addressable, searchable. Yeah, all that metadata, once again you can mark it. Okay, it requires filter. Does it always require a filter? Then only it will return the data, or it can return the data directly by calling entity set also. So that's something you can mark all the metadata properties over here. Save it. We are ready with our entity type. Nice. Next step is generate the service, which would then generate the metadata of the service. So whatever you've written here gets converted to code, guys. There's nothing called magic. So whatever you written here ultimately gets converted to a coding. And who does that coding? Who converts this thing into a code? Anyone? Who converts this thing into a code? Will we write now the code? No. SAP Service Gateway Builder will do it. And when it is converting this, whatever you written here to a code, where will this code go and sit? Where will this code go and sit? Anybody? Whatever when you generate, where will it go and sit? Okay, for metadata, you see, this is a metadata information. It will go to MPC class. It won't go to DPC. DPC means CRUD operations. Okay, anything related to metadata, blueprint, entity type, everything goes to the MPC class, model provider. So let's see that. Right now, there is no MPC at all. You see runtime artifact, it's empty. There is nothing into it. Okay, nothing into it. It's empty. Click on save. And I click here and click on this button called generate runtime objects. Now, what will it generate? Anybody? When I click on this, what will it generate? MPC and DPC classes along with extension classes. Wow. You see now it's asking me create an MPC extension class with this name. Is that okay? I'm also planning to create an MPC with this name. Is that okay? You can change the class names here, guys, based on your need. Okay, but typically we keep it same because that's the way naming convention can be kept intact. Look at naming convention. The first initial is always start with YCL. That's indicating that's the class. Then your OData service name. You see, OData Demo 2018. That's your service name. Underscore DPC extension, MPC extension. So that way, if you just look at a service, you can also derive its class names. YCL, if it's starting with Y, so YCL underscore this name underscore DPC. That will be the DPC class name. Underscore EXT, DPC extension class name. Okay. Additionally, it's also creating technical model in some service. You see, this service will be helpful for you for registering this. This is a service name which it is giving now to it. This is again naming convention, service project name underscore SRV. Okay. So this will be helpful for later on registering the service. Okay, right now let's copy this. I copied it already and click on OK. It will now ask you the package once again. Give your package in which you log the service builder project, same package, lock it into same transport so that it can reach to quality in production. Sorry, I have to give local object in this example. And now let's see what happens. So it will create DPC MPC extension classes along with the MPC DPC classes. I will show you in a minute. Yes, you see all the classes got generated successfully. Before generating, you can also do this nice check here to check the consistency if everything is okay. Yeah. So I did it, and now you can go and check in SE24 your class name. So remember the naming convention, YCL underscore your project name, YDemo OData 2018 underscore DPC ext, or I will first go to MPC class generated by SAP, go to display. Sorry, I think I'm using the wrong project name. My project name is different. OData underscore demo 2018. OData underscore demo, guys. I did mistake. OData underscore demo 2018 MPC. Go to display, and there you go. You see your MPC class generated by SAP automatically. And now if you go to define method, all the code whatever you written there for your entity type product is now written over here. This is the code which SAP generated automatically for you. See, you remember these properties we had put, all of that got generated automatically. That gets converted behind the scenes to a code, and this is that code, guys. MPC class, this is SAP generated code, automatically gets adopted as and when you change things. And that's why we don't write our code in MPC and DPC class, because SAP generated code will always overwrite your code. You write always in extension classes. Let me show you the extension class. If at all there's a need to write a code, always use extension classes. And if I come to extension class, go to properties, you see the parent class is MPC class. Right? Clear, all of you? Why we don't write code in MPC and DPC? Why we write in extension, and what exactly happening behind the scenes? Another interesting thing wanted to show you is the types which got created. So you created a entity type called product. For that entity type, a type got created here called TS product. Just go inside this type. You see it includes all your properties now over here. All your properties are included over here. Yeah. All your properties are included over here. Whatever you created. Nice. Also, it created a table type for us. So you can see TT product. And now you see it's a table type. It's a type of internal table type which is created. Now we will use extension class to write our code for OData. Okay, so I will just support one method. Now before we do that, we need to register the service. Let's register the service in Fiori front-end system. So I go to Fiori front-end system. To register the service, we use transaction /iwfnd /main service transaction. You can see it here. This is the transaction we will be using to register our service. Go inside, and now click on add service. Okay, add service. And now since it's a central hub scenario, you need to tell which is the system where you created the service. So press F4 and I choose that I had created my service in my Fiori backend server. So this is the alias name of this system in which you created your service. Select that. Now, guys, if you are using embedded scenario where your gateway system and your service builder system both are same, use local here. Okay, use local. If both of these systems are same, use local. Okay, local. Otherwise, use the system name. It could be a CRM or ERP system, and put your service name which you had copied. That should come here in the external service name always. Some people put it in technical service name and then say, Anubhav, it's not working. It will not work because it should be in the external service name. The service name also is always start with Y, OData, demo 2018 underscore SRV. Press enter and you see the service is now available in the front end. I can select it and I can say get service and select it and say add selected service. That's it. It will now add your service to the front end system. Local object I'm doing. Ideally, you give a productive package and lock it in a transport so that it can be released. Remember, your gateway transport should be released later after you release your service transport in the backend. So first release your backend transport, then release your gateway transport, so things remains compatible when they reach to quality system. Message comes successful loading of metadata and the service creation. Nice. Click on OK. Go back. You will be able to now find your service here in the gateway. You can filter, put your external service name once again and click on OK. And there you go. This is your service. Click on Cold Browser. It will launch the browser for you and shows you the service. It's asking me credentials. I pass and that's it. This is your service document, guys. Congratulations, your first OData service is ready with service document in place. And you see all item, app, collection, all that. We didn't put anything. This is all coming from SAP generated code. We don't have to worry. We only have to focus on what data we need and how do we retrieve the data from database and pump it into the entity type. That's it. Nothing else. We don't need anything else. Okay. We don't need anything else. Okay. That's what we can do. Superb. Now I will show you metadata. So as we all know, we can put now $metadata, press enter, and that's your metadata of the OData service. You see, these are all the properties you had put in the product. That's all is coming. So one last thing, let's go ahead and now write some code. So to access the data now, you always use entity set like we were doing yesterday. So I see now here product set is my entity set name. Press enter and let's see if it gives me the data. It won't give me because I have not written the code. There is nothing called magic. You see it's dumping, it's giving me an error, and it's also telling me which method is missing. You see, it says method this get entity set not implemented in data provider class, which means I must have to provide an implementation in order to expose the data out. Yeah. So for every CRUD method, for CRUD operation, you have separate method. To get all records, you have get entity set method. To get a single record, you have get entity method. To create a new record, you have create method, and so on. You have update and delete methods. So let's go to DPC extension. I won't take more time, guys. We will try to complete it on time. I think we already exceeded, but that's okay. I hope you can bear another 15 to 20 minutes or maybe 10 minutes. So DPC ext, remember guys, you are writing your code now. Never write in DPC or MPC class. Use extension class, data provider class for CRUD implementations. Go to change and now you got to come down. You will see 5 methods for product. For creating product, deleting product, getting one single record of the product, getting multiple record of the product, and updating the product data. 5 methods for every entity type it gets created. Sorry, entity set. For every entity set, 5 method gets created in the DPC extension. Let's click on it. It shows in the blue color. What does it mean? Anybody? in a class. My oops abap tutorial I already shared with you guys, those who taken this course. In oops abap I taught you in inheritance concept. What does it mean if a method looking in blue color? Yes, it means it's coming from base class. Okay, it's coming from base class. So if I want to implement in my concrete class, I should select it and redefine it. Very good. I got a lot of answers. You're all right. Let's go inside. And now here I remove this code and I will write my own code to send the data out. Let's look at the signature of the class, and you see this class is returning an ET entity set table. ET stands for exporting table. ES stands for exporting structure. Okay. IO stands for importing object. IV stands for importing variable. IT stands for importing table. IS stands for importing structure. So these are all the different parameters we have it now. So in the exporting table, ET entity set, we are going to return our records. Right now, let me return one record over here. So what I will do is I will write that record over here in this. So I will say ET entity set equals to value, and this is my structure, and then put this, and I'm just going to return some records, and then I'll just add some values. So I put product ID equals to Anubhav. Okay, that's my product ID I'm putting. Do a syntax check. It gives me an error. It says that this type is not available. Oh, sorry, I put a wrong type, guys. So the type for returning is this. This is the return type. Save this. Do a syntax check. Okay, it says it's not a generic type, so maybe I will declare just a data type. Save it, do a check, and activate. So what am I returning? I'm returning a record, one record in this internal table with product ID Anubhav. Now you must be wondering, what is this? Some of you may be seeing this for the first time. This is called value expression. It's a new ABAP syntax from NetWeaver 7.4. If you want to return an internal table out, this is a new syntax in SAP NetWeaver 7.4. The old syntax, let me write the old syntax also. What you used to do in old syntax, you used to first declare a work area, ls var or ls entity, like line of et entity set, and then you say ls entity hyphen product ID, and I say old syntax, let's say some hard-coded value I'm putting, and then say append ls entity to et entity. This is the old syntax, and same gets converted now to this new syntax by SAP NetWeaver 7.4 onwards. We are already on 7.4 in this system, so I can now use new syntax. The details of this new syntax is also taught in my ABAP on HANA course, so please subscribe that in case if you want to know more about new ABAP syntax like inline data declaration. All the different stuff is covered in that course. I save it, and maybe I just also put a little bit more here. So old syntax. So just save this, check it, activate it. Nice, superb. I'm returning a hard-coded data right now. Let's come back and hit the OData call once again in the browser. So earlier you were getting an error. I come here, press enter, and voila, you see now as a response, you have got one record by far. But we have appended two records. Where did it go? Okay, so there's some problem. I think we forgot something or maybe missed something. Yeah, what is happening, I appended this record, and then what happened is this one, it replaced with the assignment, because you're doing just an assignment. So whatever was that in ET entity set got replaced. Okay, so maybe I just put the old syntax below so that you can see. both the records now in the output. So don't panic about new syntax. I will continue using old syntax only for ABAPers in my course going forward. But yeah, just wanted to give you a glimpse of what you may see in your company, people writing. Okay. So don't panic. So now you see old syntax, one record and one record called ANUBHAV. That's my new syntax. With my new syntax, it has come. Yeah, great. And you can also look at the data in JSON format, question mark, dollar format equals to JSON, press enter. And that's it. Your data is in the JSON format from OData service. Of course, we have not yet connected to the BAPI, which gives you the product data. That's what we're going to do in our next session. So stay tuned for the next session, guys. Very important. We will now see in next session how to call all the crude methods using the BAPIs, which we had learned today. Just wanted to give you a glimpse of creating a very simple OData service with the system architecture in today's class. In the next class, of course, we are going to consume these BAPI. We are going to use them, all the crude methods, and then finally we will consume the OData service in our Fiori application, okay, on Web IDE with XML views. So that will be our ultimate goal going forward, making using of this OData service. I will also explain you concept of dollar batch. Also, we will look at there are open topics like UX designer, what is a UX designer does in a company, what will be the extensibility, a brief overview of extensibility concept, and that these two topics will be also covered. We will also talk about HANA Cloud Platform, an introduction, how to use Web IDE in HANA Cloud Platform, and that's also something which is I want to demonstrate to all of you in this course. Okay. Any questions before we close today's class? Anybody? What is the landscape to get data from multiple backend servers? Okay, so landscape remains same. You will have, if you look at the PPT one more time, what you will have is a gateway system, and you have multiple backend systems connected with this gateway using RFC, and each RFC, which is a secure RFC connection, will be pointed to a system alias. Okay, system alias, and when you're registering the service, if you come here, you're registering the service. Here you see the backend which is maintained over here. So you can add more system. If this service exists in other systems, you can add more system aliases over here and make one of them at a time default. And that way you can get the data from multiple systems with the same OData service talking to different systems at the same time. That's the advantage of using central hub scenario. How to configure system alias, that's a customizing in SPRO. It's covered in my next course, which is more like, basis work, not your job. Okay, it's no more like a basis work, not your job. Yeah, this is a gateway hub system we have. Okay, now how to append, okay, sorry, let me just read through the doubts. How the data model DPC MPC artifacts created. That's what we saw in MPC class. We saw the generated code, right, by SAP. So that's something which SAP is generating. We should not look into it. We can just look into it, of course, but that's something SAP is generating automatically. Okay. What is the use of MPC extension? MPC extension class I will show you when I want to modify, or let's say when I show you image processing using gateway. We will return a picture out of our gateway system. That time we have to modify the metadata ourselves. And for that, I will be writing some implementation into MPC extension class, so you will understand that. It's more like working with metadata. Sometimes there is a new concept these days called UI annotations. So if you don't have an idea about CDS views and UI annotations using CDS views, you can also use MPC extension to return the annotations out of OData using MPC extension. That's also one more use of it. Okay. Great. So Fiori Launchpad will have only the apps, and the general reports will still run from SAP GUI. It's also possible to integrate SAP GUI transaction using HTML GUI with Fiori Launchpad. Okay, that's covered in my next course. Not here. Launchpad is completely a big topic. It's part of my next course, Azhar. So in S4 system, front end and back end exist in a single system. No, it depends. S4 is available in two flavors, S4 on-premise and S4 on cloud. As for on-premise, you will see backend and front-end system as two different systems. But if you talk about S4 cloud implementation, there you have both front-end and backend system as a single box. But you would never care about it. You will never ever see SAP GUI also over there. You will only see a Fiori screen to do everything, okay, in S4 cloud. But S4 OP, you will have two different systems, of course. Before installing SAP Fiori related services, service pack gateway basis ask for which service pack to be installed. That's something which your basis guy must know. There is a lot of information also available on internet for that, and I had also showed this installation of SAP UI5 pack into the gateway in my next course. Okay, so it's a procedure. You need to download the packet from service marketplace and see also what NetWeaver it is compatible with. That something is also covered in my next course. OPA 5 and QUnit is also covered in my next course. It's not part of this course. Okay, so this course we learned a lot. It's not like we didn't learn anything. If you look at our PPT size, it's about to cross now 100 slides. So you see, this is what we learned in a whole of our course. A lot of learning we had done in our course by far. You see, there's a lot we learned. It's not like, and this is the base for you to do anything in Fiori. This is the base, guys, for you to do anything in Fiori. Without this, you will not reach anywhere. Okay, this base was required for me to build for you, and your base is foundation is ready. You can do anything now on top of it. In fact, I recommend you to do a lot of self-learning to achieve the desired results what you want, because you know the technology as a whole now. Okay, great. So with that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you in the next class. We will look at further enhancement of our OData service, enabling the create, read, update, and delete, and then consuming it. Maybe I will show you consuming the same service from HANA Cloud Platform into the course. Okay, great. See you then. Have a nice day and goodbye.